Now today we're looking at graphing exponential functions. And this quiz you're going to take tomorrow is going to be really quick. So this is just the last one of them. An exponential function is going to have the x part of it as the exponent. Now this a right here won't be here. What I'm going to have instead of an a is a number. It could be a number like a whole number, like a 5, a 6, a 7, or it could be a fraction like 1/3, 1/4, fraction between 0 and 1. And that's going to make a difference in the shape, whether it's a whole number or whether it's a fraction. So the first thing we want to do is, let's graph with our graphing calculator, just a basic one, 5 to the x. This is going to be what an exponential function looks like. So 5, and then to get the x in the exponent spot, go ahead and if you hit the little button right here, that puts you up there, so you can put an x in. And this is going to be very similar, whether it's 2 to the x, 3 to the x, 4 to the x, 5 to the x, it's an exponential function, and it looks like this. Yeah. And you've probably heard somewhere, whether it's watching TV or something, you've heard the phrase growing exponentially. It comes from what an exponential function is. As you go to the right, this thing starts getting higher really quick. So you're right here, and then you're way up here, then you're way up here. By the time you're at 3, you're way up here. By the time you're at 4, you're even higher up there. So when something's growing exponentially, that means it's going amazingly fast, amazingly quick. So go ahead and sketch this. It comes from, it comes from really low, you can't even see it, and then once it crosses the axis here, it goes way up.
Way up.
Yep.
Way.
And it's actually going to cross this axis at, right there, that's at 1, right here. So this is 0, 1. So it has this y-intercept of 0, 1. Because if you put a 0 in for the x right here, what is 5 to the 0 power?
0.
1 is 1. Okay, really quickly, let's just do a couple of these real quick, just to see. Do 2 to the x instead of 5 to the x. You can change it very quick. Just go highlight your 5, change it to a 2, and take a look at it. Pretty similar. It just took a little bit longer before it really got going, but then it gets going. Look at like something bigger, 7 to the x. 7 to the x. It just gets going to the sky even quicker. So that's what your exponential functions look like. They all cross the y-axis right here at 1, and then as you go right, they go really, really high. Now, if we change that 5 to some fraction between 0 and 1, like 1/3, 1/2, 1/4, the shape's a little bit different. It works out differently. So let's go ahead and graph this and see what happens when we got 1/3. And the good thing about these newer calculators is you can actually put in 1/3 just like it looks. 1/3 to the exponent of x. It's kind of flipped. So it comes from way high, and it still crosses at 1 right here, and then it levels out. And you can't see it, but it just levels out right here. So it's got the opposite effect. Crosses right there at 1, and levels out. And while you can't see it on your graphing calculator, it never goes away. It just gets closer and closer and closer to the x-axis, and closer and closer and closer. Just leveling out, never quite getting there, but getting really, really close. All right, now let's take our...
So it would never ever reach
0. It'll never reach 0. It'll just get close and close and close. And the further you go to the right, the closer it gets, but it never gets there. Okay, let's try -5 to the x.
At some point you would have to reach it.
Yeah, it never will, though. It never will. You can just half it, and half it, and half it, and you can never get to 0.
Yeah, bro.
It won't do it, I promise. -5 to the x. Any guess on what that's going to do when you put a negative out in front? Yeah, it's going upside down, because that negative in front is going to be a flip. So it's the exact same as 5 to the x if you just took 5 to the x and flipped it. A negative in front will flip it down. And right here, it's going to cross at -1 right there. And then likewise, this is going to be a complete flip of that right there. -1/3 to the x. And it flips. So it comes from way, way, way low, and then it hits at -1, and then it levels out. All right, so the biggest thing is between the two, if it's an exponential function and the number is a positive number bigger than 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, oh, well, not even 1, let's go 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It's going to go, start on the left to the right, it's going to start really, really, really low. It's going to hit the 1, and then it's going to go up. If you have a fraction between 0 and 1, then it's going to start from the sky, come down, hit the y-intercept at 1, and then level out. So it's just flipped that way. And if you throw a negative in front, we take these and flip them down and get these. So let's go ahead and look and see what we got on the back side. Without the graphing calculator, 2 to the x, 2 to the x. Since that number is big, are we going to start near 0 or start up in the sky?
Near 0.
Start near 0, come here, cross here, and then work your way up. Exponentially growing, so we start really low, hit at 1, and then go way up. Like that. Exponential. All right, if I stick a negative in front, I got an exponential function, 2 to the x, 3 to the x, 4 to the x, but then I stick a negative in front, how does that change? How does that change us? Flip it. Just like taking this and flipping it this way. So it comes from just under the x-axis, crosses a -1, goes down, flips it. I've got negative, now this is a 1/4 to the x. Now, if it was positive 1/4 to the x, think about positive 1/4 to the x does this. So negative 1/4 to the x flips it. So come from negative infinity, come from way down low, hit here and even out. If you're a fraction, come from here, even out that way. And the last one you've got is a regular one. 1/6. It's a regular one. If it's a fraction, do I come from low or do I come from high?
Come from high.
Come from high, hit the 1, and level out. Just come from here, hit there. Now this one's a bonus because here's kind of a trick question. Don't grab it, think about it. Where do you think this one comes from? Does this one come from low or does this one come from high? It is a fraction.
Low.
Comes from low. Why do you think it would come from low when it's a fraction?
Because it's over.
Because it's over 1. This is a fraction, but it's different than these other fractions.
Because it's one.
This is, when I say a fraction between 0 and 1, I'm talking about 1/6. I'm talking about 1/4. But 5/4 is really 1.25. So numbers that are bigger than 1 are going to act the same way as the 2 and the 5 and the 3. Yeah, so this is bigger. So if you graph to this one, expect it to come from low and go high. Takes a little longer to get there because it's a little bit lower than 2, 1.25, but eventually it grows and grows and grows, and if you kept going, eventually it's going to shoot straight up. Just like that. All right, that's it for your exponential functions. 2 to the x, 3 to the x, 4 to the x, 5 to the x, start out low and then shoot to the sky, and then fractions. Start out high and then level out as you go to the right.
Can I get a test?
Yeah, I'll put it on my
How you doing? Coach.
I need a test too. Me too.
With that 5/4, it really depends on how you put it in.
504. You've got to put it in.
Can I have an exercise over that?
Yeah, I put 5 in there.
Can I get an exercise over that too?
It came
Give me a
out.
second, I'll look. Start on the practice.
It came out.
Oh, I need to exercise in the test.
It was good.
Well, you don't have to understand, we were talking about it.
Wow, that's it.
Be quiet.
Is that what's gonna look like?
Just kind of with a word bank tomorrow.
Can I have that?
With a word bank tomorrow here. To kind of prep you, I got quadratic, exponential, even root, odd root, absolute value. Now you don't have these different pictures. These are shapes of graphs. So if I pointed at one, say this one right here,
Where? I can't.
What?
Somebody's head's in the way.
I can't see you.
That'd be an.
right here, this
Even
Even
root.
root, yeah.
even root. So this one would be an even root.
Yeah.
Let's say we've got this one right here,
That's even.
The one we
That's
did today.
ones we did today, which was what?
Exponential.
Exponential. This one right here,
Odd root.
odd root. This one, quadratic. This one,
Quadratic.
this one.
Absolute value.
And do this one,
Even root.
an even root, and then this one,
That's exponential.
exponential. So that's what we're looking at. So just know what they are, and these are the possible shapes. And there's 5 different things to choose from: even roots, odd roots, absolute value, exponential, or quadratic. So just match them up. Should be fairly easy. Okay, Joe, you want to test on a couple?
Yes.
Emily, do we want to test? Okay, Sasha, do we want to test?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I thought he had you on the third line. He never bagged me, like, I was on the bag.
Harrison, do you want to test?
Yes.